Here we have a Lenovo Legion gaming laptop I picked up for around £90, and here we have a brand new keyboard. Let's take a look and see if we can fix this laptop up and make the ultimate budget gaming machine. We all love a gaming laptop, and what's not to love about a Lenovo Legion? Arguably the best line of gaming laptops out there. Trust me, I ain't biased. I have a Dell. Anyways, today we're taking a look at this pretty cheap yet potential rich model I bought for less than £100 on eBay. Despite being around 7 years old, I still think it has some use. The seller mentions it to have a faulty keyboard, which honestly didn't deter me from its value proposition. To have a fully fledged gaming laptop for under £150, which itself is quite remarkable. The one we have here is a Y530 15ICH with an i5-8300H and GTX 1050 graphics, which admittedly is on the lower end of things, but if we can achieve a modest average in the games we test, then it shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. Unboxing aside, the laptop does seem to be in good condition with scratches and scuffs, but nothing to whinge about. The form factor and lightweight design is a reason why the Legions are highly rated, and I must say it does feel quite sturdy despite only being plastic. Keyboard and palm rest look unscathed, as well as the display, and ports on the back and sides look tidy as well, so all in all it looks pretty solid. Let's take a closer look to see whether the seller's claims are true. Anyways, here we have the Lenovo Legion gaming laptop. Let's see if it turns on before we do anything else with it. Alright, without further ado, let's plug it in and see if it goes into power. Before we turn it on, the seller did mention on the listing that the keyboard doesn't work, so we're going to need one of these. So let's plug it in and go into the BIOS. Alright, here goes nothing. Okay, that was not good. It literally flexed as I pressed the power button, but okay, we're into the boot manager, which is not ideal. Can we go into... okay, never mind. No, I want to go into the BIOS. Alright, round 2. Let's turn it on and go into the BIOS. There you are. Okay, so we have a Lenovo Legion Y530 15ICH. Brilliant product name. The BIOS version is, honestly, I can't be bothered reading that. But for the CPU, we have an Intel Core i5-8300H at 2.3 GHz, and we have 4 GB of installed memory, which is nice. I mean, it's nice that they actually gave us some memory. So it looks like some of the keys do in fact work, but as I go down, it for some reason tries to press enter, which is not normal whatsoever. So I'm guessing some of the keys are in fact non-functional. So we'll actually test it into Windows. So with all of that said, let's turn this thing around, give it some RAM and an SSD so we can install Windows and test it all out. Alright, here we have the laptop. Let's give it a little disassembly and see what it looks like under the hood. Now, I don't think there are any screws securing the bottom panel down to the laptop, so we should just be able to just pop it right out. So let's see if that's the case. There you are. Alright, so that's what it looks like. So of course you've got the battery, you've got the GPU and CPU, you've got a SATA port, which is nice to see. You can also put in an NVMe, which we will do later on. And of course the RAM sticks. So first things first, let's put in an extra stick of 16 and we should be good to go. What we have here is a 256GB NVMe SSD from Samsung, and that's honestly all we really need. So let's just put it in and screw it in place. Here's a closer look for you guys. So of course you've got the SATA disk, you've got the SSD, and you've got the RAM, the battery, and you've got the big ass heatsink. Would you take a look at that? So of course, let's put the back panel back on and try and boot into Windows. So yeah, without further ado, let's do that real quick. Alright, so with all of that completed, let's install Windows 11. Yep, Windows 11. Right, let's turn it on. And I think it is the enter key. Anyways, here we are in the Windows 11 setup, so let's just skip forward to when all of this is completed and we can actually investigate what that issue really is. Alright, one thing I could do is test the keyboard here. So let me just type out a few characters and see if that actually... okay, so let me just hold down this. Okay, now I see what the seller was on about. Yeah, that is not normal whatsoever. So for some reason I'm pressing the backspace and the hashtag symbol is typing out. That makes no sense whatsoever. Alright, so let me type out a few numbers. 8. Okay. What is going on, guys? What is going on? This makes no sense. But yeah, the keyboard is completely botched. Yeah, we do need to replace this, and thankfully we do have a replacement that we will unbox quite soon. So yeah, let's just set up Windows 11 anyways as normal so we can actually investigate this more thoroughly. And of course, you know, replace that keyboard because that keyboard is not normal whatsoever. So yeah, let's do that real quick. So there we have it, guys, and to be honest, that screen does look quite nice, and it sounds like a flipping jet engine at the minute. So we do need to change the thermal paste once we change that keyboard. Let's just test out that keyboard real quick by going in Notepad and see what the hell is going on. Alright, so here's me just typing as normal on the keyboard, and yeah, so this is exactly what the seller was on about. This makes no sense whatsoever. So I press Q and like, what is going on? This makes no sense. It's pressing Q and 1 and leaving a space. Like, what? I'm pressing E and 3 is typing out. I'm pressing R. Okay, R is normal. Fair enough. T and V is going from T and V. How is that even possible? This makes no sense. I'm pressing Enter and the hash symbol is coming out with a quotation mark. Yeah, this keyboard is completely botched. Yeah, we do need to replace this. So, you know what? Just forget everything right now. Let's just take this thing apart and get that replacement out, because I did buy a replacement and honestly, it wasn't too bad. More on that in a minute. You know, when something is too far gone, the best option is to bin it. Cursed keyboard aside, let's disassemble the whole lot and give it some TLC. Taking off the back panel, we're set for a roller coaster of events, and I have to be extra cautious not to be an idiot. Firstly, taking out the external components such as the stick of RAM and the SSD. Next we have the battery, which is a 52 Wh cell. Can't say how degraded it is, but we'll investigate that once we're into Windows. After that, the heatsink comes out as well as the two fans. Now we have a clearer view of both CPU and GPU. All cables were taken out and I had to be extra cautious with those ribbon cables. Some were under the motherboard, so ripping them out were as easy as getting robbed in the streets of London. Few motherboard screws later and here we have it. Quite a peculiar shape and prone to breaking, so let's leave that aside and forward our attention to the display, which is hooked up to the keyboard chassis. Think it's worth mentioning that you can't replace the keyboard itself as it's fitted with the palm rest and trackpad all in one piece. Makes replacing it so convenient. Anyways, I got the speaker out of the way and went ahead with the display. Few screws holding it down, and just like that, here we have the display assembly. Quite a simple design but cleverly engineered. I guess it's time to introduce the replacement, which I bought from Lenovo Pods for only £13. Quite an incredible deal, and with that comes with a brand new trackpad and palm rest. The only downside is the layout is Italian, but as long as it's an ISO based layout, it honestly shouldn't be that bad. I guess we could replace the keycaps if needed. All in all, I'm quite pleased, so let's get the new keyboard assembly and begin the reassembly. Starting off by screwing down the display and of course the motherboard. Next are all of the pesky cables and two fans. Time to bring out the isopropyl alcohol, which swiftly got rid of the crusty thermal paste and replaced that with some good stuff. Heatsink goes back in and of course the other parts. The disassembly as a whole wasn't too difficult, but there were many instances where something could have broke. So let's find out if that's the case. The moment of truth, let's see if we've managed to fix the keyboard. So let's turn on the Lenovo Legion and see what it has to say. I mean, one thing I've not really highlighted on is the fact that we only paid £13 for essentially a new trackpad, a new palm rest, and also a new keyboard. I mean, the keyboard is Italian, so it's going to be a bit annoying trying to get used to it, but honestly, the fact that it's an ISO layout, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Alright, so far so good. And there you have it. Okay, so the Legion is booting up, and it does look like the keyboard is functioning. Okay, so does the keyboard work? Okay, so the trackpad does work, that's good. The left and right click, okay, so the left key does work, and the right key does in fact work as well. And as for the keyboard, let's just go into Notepad. A lot better than what it was like before. So, all in all, everything is working as intended, which is a great sign. And thank God we did not break anything during that disassembly. So with all of that said, let's benchmark the heck out of this Legion and see what it has to say. Of course, we got to stress test the CPU out, so let's see how well we do in Cinebench R23. Let's see how well those 4 cores and 8 threads really do. Looks like we got a score of 4013, which honestly, I'm not too sure if it's too high or too low, so let me know down in the comments. Time to test out the GTX 1050. Here we have Valley Benchmark running on high settings at system resolution. Let's see what score we get. At the minute, we're currently getting around 63 FPS and the GPU is at 58 degrees and is currently using around 0 watts of power? Okay, that's not right whatsoever. So yeah, all in all, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, in the more open areas, we are getting a few dips in the 50s, but 64, 65 looks to be the sweet spot. Honestly, this is a perfect result, and the fact that we can get above 60 FPS average is quite decent. Looks like in the more open areas we're getting around 82, 77, 74, so there's a few fluctuations here and there and a few dips as you just saw right there. I mean, I was expecting around the mid 40s, mid 50s considering we're working with a 2GB GTX 1050, but no, we're getting around 45, 60, 65 FPS and the average at the minute is about 68.1. So all in all, I think it is a pretty good result and to be honest, I have no complaints thus far. So there you have it. Looks like we got an average FPS of around 62, which honestly is quite surprising. Like I said before, I was expecting around the mid 40s to 50s. So the fact that we got above 60 FPS is quite remarkable. The score is 2594 and the minimum FPS is 21.2 and the maximum is 114.3. So far, I've been quite impressed with the graphical performance of the Lenovo Legion, so let's test out Minecraft and see how well we do. We're on Minecraft Java 1.21 and the settings that we're working with are 12 chunks all around. We're on full screen, max frame rate is unlimited and VSync is off. As for the quality, we're on fancy graphics and everything else is on default. And this is how we're doing. We're currently getting around 275 FPS, 250, 240, so around the mid 200s to the upper 200s is where we're at. As for the GPU, we're currently at 65 degrees at 67% utilization. As for the CPU, we're at 92 degrees, which is a lot higher than I expected. I mean, I was expecting around the 60s to 70s, so 83, 85, 90 there. Overall, it is playing perfectly fine. We're getting around 230 just flying around doing nothing. And when we just like land and break a few blocks here and there, you know, as you play Minecraft normally, it honestly looks perfectly fine. But I am quite concerned with those CPU temps, so let's test out a few shaders and see how well we do there. Here we have Astrolux shaders running on the Lenovo Legion, and Astrolux shaders are a bit more intensive, so let's see how well we do there. And we're currently getting around 20 FPS. I mean, honestly, this is pretty bad. It's like 10% of what we had originally, but yeah, you really wouldn't want to play like this. Like, the motion blur is crazy. I know you can disable it, but yeah, this is unplayable whatsoever. I guess when you fly around, does it change all that much? Not really. When we look at the water, it's even worse. I mean, like the low 10s, would you have a look at that? The GPU is at 100% utilization and the CPU is at 38. So there is clearly a bottleneck going on, and honestly, this is not suitable to play on. So let's test out a less intensive shader and see how well we do. Here we have Silda's Vibrant shaders light, and we should be able to get a lot better. So let's have a look, shall we? And we're currently getting around 99 FPS, 102 FPS right there. Yeah, this is perfectly playable, and honestly, it doesn't even look too bad. The screen on this laptop looks perfectly fine. Honestly, the colors are quite vivid and vibrant, so I wouldn't even mind playing on this. We're getting around 62, 69. The GPU is still at 100% and the CPU is at 34, so clearly there is a bottleneck. But all in all, the game runs perfectly fine on shaders. So yeah, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Next we have Fortnite. Let's see how well we do on the highest settings and of course performance mode. So on performance mode, on the lowest settings, we're getting around 115 FPS, just kind of doing nothing. And that's not bad whatsoever. The GPU is at 71 degrees and the CPU is at 81 degrees. We're getting around 104 right there, 105, 93. And okay, so there was a stutter right there. But honestly, the game does run pretty smoothly and I have no issues with it whatsoever. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cranked up all of the settings and we're currently getting around 3 FPS. Granted, we are on DX12 and everything is on Epic, but the fact that we can't even break 10 FPS is kind of comical. I mean, would you have a look at that? Everything is on 100% utilization. The CPU is at 95 degrees, which is crazy, and it's using around 48 watts of power. Would I play like this? Probably not, but the test is just to gauge how well Fortnite can run on a GTX 1050, and clearly, it is not doing too well when on the highest settings. I mean, when the game looks like a stop motion animation, then you know that you're into some uncharted territory. This looks completely unplayable. I mean, would you take a look at that? The grass only just generated. That is crazy. I mean, I would have thought we would get at least 10 FPS on the highest settings, but no, I guess the GTX 1050 does not like that. So yeah, let's skip forward and play another game and see how well we do. Well, I'm hoping we have a bit more luck with GTA. Here we have GTA 5 Enhanced running on the Lenovo Legion at normal settings. And naturally, before I even launched the game, there was an error message stating that the machine didn't meet its required specs. So this is going to be quite exciting. Let's see how well we do. Starting off, we're currently getting around 72 FPS, 69, 66, and the GPU is at 67 degrees and the CPU is at 84. The CPU is always higher than the GPU for some reason. I mean, the ambient temperature in this room is around 17, 18 degrees, so it's not even that high. So I'm not too sure why the CPU is always higher than the GPU. Makes no sense in my opinion. I mean, it could be that it is a H series CPU and that does use a lot more power. The GPU is at 94% utilization and the CPU is at 89, so no bottleneck going on here, which is a good sign. It's currently currently using around 47 watts of power, and as for the RAM, it's using around 13 gigabytes. So all in all, it's not too bad. So in the more open areas, we're getting around 60 FPS, 65, 64, and the latency isn't too high as well, which is a good sign. And just flying around, we're getting around the mid 60s once again, 76, 81, 85. I don't even know why I'm shouting out these numbers. It's like I'm in a Philippine auction. 89, 85, 82, 80, and the game doesn't even look too bad as well, so that's pretty good. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this benchmark. Time for some Cyberpunk.